moment during the 2000 campaign where you felt the AFP was vulnerable? That,
In 2000,
yes, sir.
no, I think we really had all the advantages. I can see the time that the V300s of the Marines were still quite new, and so it really provided good armor support. And at that time, for 6ID side, we still had the Division Artillery Regiment, meaning when I took over 6ID March 2007, we still had the Division Regiment because it was upgraded to a artillery regiment, because if you talk of the number of batteries, the number of tubes, it is practically equivalent to 3 FA battalions. There were, because one battery is 6, so one FA battalion is 18. There were about 44 guns in 6ID area, as compared to 1st Division area had only one FA battalion, which is almost equivalent. But they had more guns in Sulu, more than a battalion, but one battalion is only supporting 1st Division. So unique yung Sulu eh. While 1st Division is supported by one FA battalion, Sulu has so many guns and so many batteries. But of course, like 6ID, they have an equivalent of an artillery regiment because they have about 44 guns. And so the armor for that time, I can still remember before I took over as UT Southcom, during the time of General Urgelio as the division commander of 6ID, he built up the armor because he know that the armor was really one of the main advantage of our troops, because the terrain in central Mindanao is marshy, there's big spans of there's a wide spans of marsh areas, and of course there are existing roads, and the only way that you can move in troops is with armor protection. You cannot move in troops with just plain M35s. They will be very vulnerable. So that vulnerability was addressed when Army deployed so much armor for the 6ID.
Sir, what was the turning point of the campaign when you were absolutely sure that Bubakar will be taken?
As U3, I did not really have the first-hand information on the intent of the higher headquarters. But when things were unfolding, I knew that this will be it. I mean, I believe that we will attack eventually all especially Abu Bakar. And so I anticipated this event. So what happened is I focused on how to sustain the operation, especially in terms of ammunition, in terms of bombs, rockets. So I already advised the component, my counterparts in the component forces, like Air Force, to prepare the bombs that you will need, because eventually we will be attacking two major camps, which is Camp Abu Bakar and Camp Busra. And so they did that. But at least I know that that time we had at least 2 or 3 operational C-130. So we have been moving logistics to C-130 and the Navy ships. And then, of course, we anticipated the need for the 105 millimeter ammunition. And so I think GSQ, before we really had launched the main offensive, had already ordered some ammunition. And so by the time we were already running low on ammunition, the 105 ammo just came in on time before the final final attack of the 2 main camps. And so in a way, we were able to sustain the operations of the forces on the ground.
Sir, at any one time, did you feel any international pressure, especially with regards to the declaration of the all-out war, and especially with regards to the status of internally displaced persons during the 2000 war?
During that time, I believe there was not much international agency intervention yet. Because we just had a peace agreement with the MNLF, so in a way, everybody's happy with it. But they did not anticipate that the problem with the MILF will eventually become big. So, there was no, unlike when I took over 6ID, there was already an IMT, International Monitoring Team. So these are the new players in the conflict itself. So before, there was no international observers, but there were already some NGOs working. But I think the effect of the all-out offensive was not really, in a way, for me, I did not feel any international pressure. They did not question the decision of the government to go on all-out offensive. I think what happened there was that civil society got mad because they did not like the idea of going all-out offensive, because when during the all-out offensive they said IDPs reached 1 million, and I think we were not prepared. Government, NGOs were not prepared to handle so much IDPs, and so I believe they had problems, especially in providing relief assistance. And so maybe sometimes when you conduct war or launch a war, I think it would even be better if we could factor in the other players, like the other agencies that are supposed to plan for the collateral damage. Because in an internal conflict, the collateral damage is not the infrastructure, not destruction so much of infrastructure, but rather the IDPs that will be involved in a major offensive. And so, with these lessons that I saw as a U3 of Southcom, when I launched an offensive last year, we saw to it that the other agencies, in a way, will be advised when to go in. Like in 2000, when we started the offensive in August 2008, I told my G7 to coordinate with the local government to prepare for the influx of IDPs. In fact, this is one lesson that I applied last year as a division commander when we ran after Cato's group. So when Cato's group started attacking villages in North Cotabato as an offshoot of their frustration on the junking of the MOA on the ancestral domain, many of the mayors and the governor himself, and the vice governor especially, who used to be the governor, reacted by saying that since there is ceasefire, the AAP cannot go on offensive. And so they said, okay, we will purchase arms and ammo. So we'll do the fighting instead of because we expect that the military cannot fight because of the existing ceasefire. But what I did was I met all the local government officials, especially the governor and the mayors. I told them, fighting is my job. So you as local government officials should prepare for your job, which is you should be able to manage the IDPs. Because definitely I told them that government is not stupid not to take any action. Maybe we're just looking for the right timing to take action against Cato, because that time there were still existing mechanisms. This is what we are now. This is what I'm teaching now. There are other players now in the conflict. Remember, there was no IMT before, but when President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo took over, she revived the peace talks in, I think, January 2001 or February. Anyway, when she took over, 2001, she revived the peace talks. And so therefore, they revived also the ceasefire. So there was a ceasefire agreement. And the new approach of the president was that she even offered or invited Malaysia to facilitate the peace talks. So Malaysia became the facilitator. And then, as maybe part of the confidence building measures, or even how to show sincerity to the international community, the President Arroyo even invited some countries to send international monitoring team, or international monitors, which is what we call now international monitoring team. It is also headed by Malaysia, and the head of mission is usually a Malaysian general, a two-star general. And then the membership comes from, we have a contingent from Brunei, a contingent from Libya, and civilian advisors from Japan. Japan did not deploy military monitors. Initially they sent one economic advisor to the IMT, but now lately they have already deployed two economic or civilian advisors to the international monitoring team.
How did you, as the commander of the 6th Infantry Division then, sir, how did you manage the twin mandates of protecting the citizens versus upholding the primacy of the peace process?
Actually, that was what we were talking about when, with my brigade commanders. How do you now fight and at the same time uphold the peace process? This is actually the main dilemma when the atrocities of Kato's group started about as early as June 2008. There were already some harassments of our, almost daily harassments of different detachments in the 6ID area, the harassments of our patrol bases, of the line units, and also there were some villages that were being harassed already. Some of their rice harvests were taken forcibly, or in a way, they were driven out of the village, and some rogue MILF members had taken their animals. And so that was the dilemma. There was, that time, that's what we call, there was an existing mechanism. There was the ceasefire mechanism, which is basically the two ceasefire committees. We have the Joint Ceasefire Committee composed of GRP Ceasefire Committee and the MILF Ceasefire Committee. The GRP Ceasefire Committee was headed usually by a general. At that time, it was General Celana. And then the other side has their own ceasefire committee chairman, which is before it was Tox Ibrahim. No? That was the counterpart of the... So this ceasefire committee was supposed to be a joint committee. Whenever there are atrocities or alleged ceasefire violations by any one side, they're supposed to go there, inspect and determine what's really happening on the ground. And so this was a different thing. When you say ceasefire violation, the interpretation on the ground is like, if they attack my CAFGO detachment or patrol bases of the regular units, that's a ceasefire violation because that is a hostile act. Or if I go to their place, and if I attack them, that's a hostile act, and that's a ceasefire violation. But this time, they were actually harassing civilians. They are stealing animals. And so this is not a ceasefire violation, but rather criminal acts or terrorist acts. And so there was dilemma. So I asked General, so the mechanism is like, I complained to General Celana. Then General Celana will refer this to his counterpart, and then they go there, inspect it. And so there's still, so at least before we started the offensive, there was practically about a month of not necessarily negotiations, but rather we filed our protest, our complaints to the ceasefire committee, and they went there, inspected. And then I talked to General Celana. He said it was really, he confirmed that the Katos group has really crossed over from the Mars area in Maguindanao, crossed over to the villages in North Cotabato. And so the MILF leadership was aware of that. And so, in fact, although this is not officially, they will not accept this or they will deny this, in a way, they do not have full control over Kato's group. It was Kato's just initiative to, because maybe partially they were hungry because of the flooding of Typhoon Frank in July. Many of the villages were flooded. They did not have enough foods, and so they were on foraging activities. But anyway, there was an order from the MILF Central Committee for Kato to move out. And so we give them time to move out. We gave deadline, the government gave deadline, and then they asked for extension. Okay, we gave deadline. But on the deadline, on the date of the deadline, we already prepared for that. Because we know that, well, of course, we can anticipate the attitude of the commander, of the enemy's leader. We know that the Kato is a hard-headed guy, and he has his own agenda, so we prepared to attack. And so what I did was that there must be a change of policy. I mean, as a commander, you cannot just, in a way, defy policy. You must be supported by policy. And so I talked to the chief of staff, of course, and of course, because when operational matters are concerned, we talk to the area commander and the chief of staff. For administrative matters, we talk to the CGPA. So this was an operational matter. So I talked to the chief of staff. I told him that, sir, one way or another, we will have to attack. But the timing has to be planned well, because we do not want any reaction from the international community, because there is already an IMT. There's already international observers, so there must be a policy support from higher headquarters. And I think Secretary Puno of DILG and our Secretary of Defense, Secretary Teodoro, I think they managed well the situation. They had a conference first, informing the public of what is happening, and then eventually they were the ones who set the deadline. And I think the IO line is the most important here, the information operations line, that we told the people that we are not fighting or running after the MILF, that we will conduct law enforcement operations against the group of Kato who has committed criminal and terroristic acts against innocent civilians. That's it.
How did you operationalize that concept, sir, of conducting police operations?
Okay. The idea was that when you talk of law enforcement operations, it must be led by the police. We know that the police doesn't have the capability to attack an MILF group who are fully armed. You cannot just do that. So I asked the regional basic concept. I set the basic concept. I talked to the regional director. I told him, okay, we must prepare for this. I know that you don't have the capability, but you have to be the lead for this. And so I told him that first, let's secure the rear. I want the police to secure the rear, meaning for the military term it's rear, but on the ground, meaning I want the police to secure the lines of communication, or the MSR, together with the CAFGU. Then I told the police, you secure town centers. We can take risks. I mean, I told him, di bale nang atakin yung isang barangay, masunog isang barangay hall, wag lang mapasok ang isang municipality. Remember, Ipil was attacked by just a small group of Abu Sayyaf, but they burned the town. They burned the market. They were able to hit the town, the population. So you end up in the headline. So I told the police, your basic task will be secure the town centers, the population centers, and secure the main highway from Cotabato to the Davao, so that the flow of goods will not be disrupted, especially fuel. Not fuel for me. We have enough strategic pole reserve in 6ID to sustain maybe 6 months operations, but to secure the flow of goods for the civilians, like fuel and food. Okay, but I told them that since we are on ceasefire and talks has not backed down, everything must be police operations. And so the police cooperated by way of the tactical command post of the attacking brigade was jointly manned with the police officer, a police general, and with some of their staff, to show to any media who will go there that it is a police operation. The police is the leading, we are supporting. Of course, maybe we are operating with one RMG, which is a company-sized police, backed up by one brigade of the army. That is the concept. And so, and then again, the preparation of the civilians. I told the LGUs, don't spend your money buying ammunition and activating the illegals and buying guns. That's not your job. I told them. I told the mayors and the governor that I do not want the fighting to be violent, or because I know that once militias are involved, like the illegals, there'll be uncontrolled violence during the fighting. And you know, we don't want the fighting to be parang personal, away-away lang, personalan, no? So I told them, our job is to fight, so your job is to take care of the IDPs. And then direct your police to secure your town center, and especially the populated areas. And so they did their job. And so for me, it was my job of attacking the MILF group was made easier because I know that the rear was secured. When I say rear, that's what I mentioned, the roads, the town centers. And then so we were focusing on the front, which is fighting the MILF group and driving them away of North Cotabato. And we were successful because it just took us 3 days offensive, and on the 4th day we were already clearing. On the 5th day we cleared North Cotabato of the MILF. Again, that's where I applied the concept of clearing unexploded ordnance, because I don't want to contribute components for IED to the other side. And so with the help of even U.S. personnel, this is part of our agreement on technical support. So they deployed also their EODs. We deployed so many EODs. We deployed our troops to locate unexploded ordnance, and we cleared as many as we can. Especially the big ammo that were dead, especially 105 and bombs. We saw to it that we detonated this UXOs on site, because we don't want this to become IEDs. So that's how we manage the operations, and because of that concept of taking care of the IDPs, even if there's fighting, what happened is, for the first time, we could boast about it, like Colonel Estomo. He was a veteran of the Bulyok Offensive in 2003. He was a battalion commander of 6 IB, I think, during the Bulyok Offensive. He said this is the first time that we went on offensive, and yet nobody's complaining. Nobody's there's no Senate investigation on why we did this. In fact, we had the support of everybody. When, in a way, this is what General Llano termed as shaping the environment. Before you do things, like before we attack, the political objective must be clear. The tactical objective must be clear. All of this must be, in a way, aligned to each other. Like, because there are times that sometimes we do things that the military objective is not aligned with the political objective. Sometimes the military is criticized that we are doing things without considering the political objective. Like, for example, the rescue of a prominent hostage, for example. You cannot just plan for a rescue operation unless this is aligned with the political objective, because there are other things you have to consider. You cannot just rescue somebody, and when that hostage is killed, then you have a lot of questions to answer.
Shift na tayo, sir, sa